Okay, so we've got 4 minutes to go before we start. So I'm going to start presenting the Mentimeter, and then hopefully um, you can then see it in your browser as well, Sarika. If you can just show, um, can you see it in your browser?
Just getting to it.
Okay, cool. Sorry. Yeah, I'm getting so excited because we're actually live streaming,
I
folks.
know. I know the feeling. Yes, I can see the welcome to holding space page now. Yeah.
Perfect. So I'm just wondering, maybe we paste the code into the chat area now on LinkedIn, and then if there are people who are joining us on LinkedIn, they can actually see um,
Indeed. Let me do that.
Mentimeter.
I'll do that in just a second.
And can you keep an eye on that? Because obviously I've got two computers at the moment with three different things running, and I'm not sure my brain can actually hold the space for that.
Yes. It's a pity I don't have my other computer today with me. I would have preferred that, but yeah.
It's
No.
working. Do not question the mojo.
Okay, but the mobile will serve the purpose.
Yeah,
Okay.
perfect.
That's it. So we've got go to menti.com and the code 37226102. Perfect. Okay.
Perfect. We've got the live stream going because I can see our faces. Admittedly, there's a bit of a delay, so it's a bit weird seeing something that's in the past um, looking at us. I don't
Mhm.
care. We have got technology working for us today. So for those of you who might be listening in already, and I'm not sure, I don't know what you can hear as we're ready to live stream it. Well, I guess we are live streaming it already, aren't we? So
We are. Yes. And I
yeah.
think people are joining. I see two people online already. So I think we should begin.
Oh, okay, perfect, perfect. So a massive welcome to everybody joining us today. This has been a momentous occasion, actually getting the technology to work in the way it was intended. It has required me using my husband's personal laptop and my work laptop at the same time, but we're there. We're holding the space. So, welcome to our LinkedIn Live with myself, Rogarel, and Sarika, who's gone on
I'm
my
Sarika Kharbanda from Pune.
excellent, excellent. We're here. Yeah, we've made it.
This is really awesome. So high five since you're on this side of my
Oh,
screen. So
yes, high five. So, as I say, thank you so much for joining us in today. You probably realized there's a bit of a theme to our LinkedIn Lives, and the theme at the moment is around facilitation. And some of the key topics that come out in facilitation and what it takes to be a facilitator. And one of the things that we've been chatting about quite a lot is how do we hold space when we're facilitating? And Sarika has very kindly posted in the chat area of the LinkedIn Live event a code for Mentimeter. And Sarika, I don't know if you want to share your screen because I'd quite like to read the quote from Heather Plett, who is one of the acknowledged thought leaders around holding space in facilitation.
sure thing. Let me do that. Give me a second. There.
And while you're doing that, if for those of you who are listening live, hurrah! If you've got any questions, then hopefully Sarika will be able to use part of her brain to look at the comments
Yes.
in the sort of LinkedIn Live page. So just to start our conversation, so it's very much a conversation. We're holding space together today to have this conversation. What does it actually mean? And I really like this quote. So this is what Heather Plett says: to hold space is to walk alongside another person in whatever journey they're on without judging them, making them feel inadequate, trying to fix them, or trying to impact the outcome. And I love that quote because it covers so many bases. So, Sarika, what would, this is the quote that I've come up with. I'm intrigued to hear what that quote does for you, just listening to me read that quote out.
Well, I think I'll go back to our last month's session, right, where we were talking about standing in the fire, staying grounded under pressure, and even in the session before that and before that, you and I have been holding space for each other in so many ways. I mean, why go that far? Just the last time session where we didn't have this LinkedIn Live, right? It could have been very difficult if we didn't hold that space for each other, right? Because you just have to. And I think for me, holding space is just so important. I think it's probably one of the most important things from a facilitation point of view, right? Because even the holding space, even the silence, and I'm sure we'll talk about all these things as we get into the conversation today, but the pause, the silences, everything talks. Yeah. Interesting, right? Silence talks, we know that. But holding that space is so important, because I was in a conversation with somebody, a team just last week, and I think I put out a post on that, and it was, I just let them be in that space and just went silent for a while. And then one of them broke that silence by saying, well, thank you. We needed that space to think. And thanks for holding that, So they appreciated the fact that we could hold that space. And of course, you can't just do that together. You need the other one to understand that that space is being held for them. And then that co-creation happens. Yeah. It's automatic in a way, but also intentional in many ways. Yeah. I'd leave it at that.
Yeah. So I'm going to build on what you said there about being intentional, because in the original post, for those of you who actually saw that, I talked about how do we set the stage for real talk, and that intentional space that we create starts from the get-go when we contract ways of working, whatever you want to call it, when we actually agree how we're going to facilitate with the group team, and purposefully putting in that contracting piece, how we use silence in our facilitation. And that then might create an opportunity for conversation before you even get into the facilitation. The key thing is that you set the stage that silence is purposeful. It's not, sometimes it can be uncomfortable, but it's not something to be feared or shunned. It's purposeful, and there's an intention behind the silence. And I really like the story, and I love that post that you put out, because it does beautifully capture the fact that often we don't value the silence, and silence is usually where the thinking takes place.
Yeah, I like the fact that you said, sometimes it could get awkward. And for that statement, when people, feel that awkwardness, I generally like to share with them that sometimes the most powerful thing that you don't say is what helps. So you just have to be with it, be in that moment. And there are so many other things you can do in that silence, because if you're not observing, if you're not feeling, if you're not, there are so many of those other sense-making interactions that you can do with yourself and the environment. You might just miss a lot if you don't be present in that moment. So for me, that silence becomes key. I think it also goes back, didn't we share that when we talked about, standing in the fire, staying grounded under pressure, the CIO moment that I had, that story with my CIO. And just as a quick insight here, there was one moment when everything in the room went silent, and I was with a group of senior leaders, and nobody was saying anything. And I was like literally observing what's happening, finding that moment to then say, all right, thank you very much for, sharing with us or whatever. And then you want to figure that moment out in that silence to move that conversation forward in the right direction. As a facilitator, you're going to do that. And I think what we also mentioned in that is sometimes you might just share with people what you are seeing. So, all right, I noticed that you shared this. I noticed you shared this, but make sure you don't like disrupt the silence, but be in it and then move that conversation with the silence being appropriately disturbed.
Yeah. And so that picks up on one of the other things that I put out in the original post. What does it actually mean to hold the silence? And there are a number of things. And so I'm going to go on to the next question in the Mentimeter. Because don't worry, you don't need to share it, because if people have got the link, and I can see there are a couple of people in there. So this question I'm asking you, so these are sort of paraphrasing what Heather describes when she talks about what does it mean to actually hold the space. Thanks, Erica. And so I'm kind of thinking about, okay, well, what are the most important things in holding the space? So all of these are important, but for you, and I guess when you rank the most important, that probably tells you where your comfort level is. And your least important probably tells you potentially, not necessarily, but potentially tells you where your level of discomfort sits as a facilitator. So I'm just going to give you a couple of minutes to read through those and then put your assessment in, Sarika. So that means that other people can do that as well. So I'm going to be silent.
Just a full disclaimer for those right now, even online with us. I mean, I'm seeing this for the first time, by the way, people, so I'm responding it at the same time. So just to share, while people are responding, and I think I already know what I want to say, so I'm going to share with you, Ro, I'm seeing 2 comments. One from Anna, so true, there is so much profundity in silence, which is awesome. And Ranu Patel says, hello, everyone, great to see you. Okay, amazing faces. Okay, cool. But yes, I think the profundity in silence, which I've just broken actually by saying all this, but okay.
The irony.
My apologies, but okay. Oh, but maybe before I begin, right, Ro, how about we flip the question to you? Where would you begin?
So my favorite is keep ego out.
Mm.
And the reason I say that is because for me, that is fundamental to being able to hold the silence. And it goes back to a conversation on standing in the fire. If you keep your ego out, you are always in service of the client. And that then keeps you resourceful as a facilitator. Because what we want to be is resourceful. We want the group or the team to be resourceful as well. It's a fundamental concept in coaching as well. We want resourcefulness in our clients. We can only do that if we model resourcefulness ourselves. And for me, keeping your ego out is probably one of the core ways that I remain resourceful. The one that I probably have the hardest time with is holding emotional space. Because I know I can get emotionally involved in a conversation, particularly if it's something where the group is struggling with something and I feel profound sympathy as opposed to empathy for them. I find it quite challenging sometimes to keep my own emotional state balanced. So that would be my top of my least, not important, but I suppose most challenging.
Interesting. And people, if you're seeing this and if you haven't gone to Menti, you are welcome to also write it in chat. So since I'm just peeping like this to look at my mobile, if you've responded to something, I'm definitely going to read it and share that here with both of us and have a conversation. So I'm thinking this is a tough one for me, okay? But here's what I'm going to do. I mean, although I'm always inclined to go with co-creating psychological safety, I think people who know me will say, oh, she's always going to do that, right? I think I'm going to go with trust intuition as my top most, because for me, that is so important. I think over time, I have just made friends with my intuition and me. And I'll give you an example of why I say that. But maybe it's also not intuition, it's also sense making, right? And I'm linking right now sense making and everything into intuition. It's for me, it's that, or maybe it's a mix of trust, intuition, and stepping into the mess. Maybe that's what it is for me. Just a simple example. I remember a Scandinavian client. And I was at the office, and of course I've lived in Denmark and worked with my Finnish colleagues and everyone there, so I know how the culture functions, and I know a lot of those sensitivities in terms of when people eat, so a lot of that is now known to me, so I know that functioning. Now I could see or just observe literally, right, people getting restless at like 11:30 India time, and I'm like, okay, and here's the vendor organization of this client who's just flown in from Scandinavia saying, oh yeah, so we will break for lunch at 1:30. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's not going to work. 1:30. I think these people are like going to, the session will not move forward.
Yeah.
So I was like, I think we are in for an early lunch break. You won't believe they came and thanked me just for that. They were like, how did you know? I was like, I just knew it. It's okay. But today I'm just saying that out loud. Of course, we discussed it later with the company I was working with, but it's those small things. So I think it's a mix of intuition, knowing what you do best, and just creating that safety net for people. And after that, when they came back, they were like in full force for the session, and the session continued really awesome. So for me, I would say, I think it's a mix of these two with sense making as an angle into it. But of course, everything is so important. But maybe I'm with you that this one is a tough one. After so many years too, I think it always brings a different angle. No matter how many team agreements we create, even for the workshops we facilitate, there's always something new to this. It's a tough one. I mean, we all do this. We navigate through the complexity of it. But I'm with you on that. This is a tough one for me each time. Different.
Yeah. So just picking up on a couple of things that you said there in terms of holding the space, it's not just about holding the space in the session, it's holding the space for the unspoken word, the unspoken messages that come from the team that you intuitively pick up on. And if we get too wound up in, we've got an outcome here, we need to go through this process, we need to get these things ticked off the list, we sometimes miss those. And so holding the space, that trusting intuition, is also about knowing when to intervene and knowing when not to intervene as well. So I love that story there of you, and there is an element as well when you're facilitating that the group always kind of hands over a bit of responsibility to the facilitator as well, which is, it can both be a good thing and a not so good thing, because you don't want to, in my words, infantilize the group. You want them to take you want them to have agency for their own stuff as well, and you are the facilitator there really, as I can't remember, somebody once said you're like the sort of the person along the side, so because you want them to own whatever they come up with at the end of the day, and hopefully by the process of working together they will not only learn about the subject, the content, they'll also learn about how they achieve that content as well, so the process by which they do that. So yeah, and that kind of picks up on how we set the stage for real talk, which was one of the other comments I made in the original post, and you've touched on it there in two ways. Obviously, that trusting the intuition, and then by doing that, by listening to the team, you've created a safety net for them, which wasn't psychological, it was actually physiological, because it was about food. So it's kind of setting the stage for real talk isn't always about the things that we think it is. And I just want to step in here and ask you what your thoughts on what I've just said.
What you're reminding me of is what I just shared. I think it was last week or the week before that. I think it was in conversation with a very close colleague of mine. As facilitators, you don't want to be agenda followers, right? You have to move from being an agenda follower to being a sense maker, because it's not necessary that you have to get the outcomes and that's it. It's not just about the outcomes. It's about letting the conversation emerge, letting people grow with the conversation. Maybe at the end of the session, they're like, oh my God, we just moved to a very different place. And those are not the outcomes that we really needed even from this. So I want that cleared, because I think sometimes we just get so hung up that we have to complete this agenda. It's not about being an agenda follower. We need to move from being that agenda follower to being a sense maker and move that conversation forward. So you just reminded me of that. Like I said, I just came to the conversation today and ready to talk about anything. Brilliant. But having said that, I also see a comment from Ranu Patel, my apologies. Holding space as a facilitator means creating an environment where others feel seen, heard, and safe, emotionally, psychologically, and respectfully. Very beautifully said.
Yeah.
It's not about fixing, directing, or controlling, but about guiding gently, co-creating safety, and letting others process in their own time and way. Oh, she's reminded me of everything we spoke in our last talk. If you remember, what was it? We are not going to fix things. So resist the urge to
pathologizing the group or the team, when we shouldn't be pathologizing them. No.
Exactly. Yeah. But very beautifully said, Ranu.
Nice.
I mean, this is very really awesome.
Yeah. And that also is what you said there is we're holding the space for each other, and we're holding the space, even people we can't see them, which is one of the downsides of LinkedIn Live. However, we can actually bring them into the space by their comments. And that's the other thing as well, particularly as we move more into this world of, remote virtual, the role of the facilitator becomes even more challenging, because how do you hold space when you can't feel the energy? So what is it? So I was watching you then, and I was thinking something's going on in Sarika's brain. What is it? So you're looking at patterns, you're looking at the non-verbal communicators, that because you can't rely on any other senses. And also you're focusing in on one or two people if you've got a number of people in the group as well. So maybe just share some of what your experiences of how you've done that in the virtual world, because I know you, like me, you've done loads of these kind of things.
Indeed. So I think I'm first going to just pick that cue from what you just said, because that gets us to the very basic, right? Now, even the example I gave, it was about food, but again, it's about sense making. It's a very non-verbal cue, but you've got to pick it up, because guess what? If 4 of the 8 people in the room are going to go low on energy and I don't pick that up, what's going to happen? If somebody's got a sense make that, right? And though you don't have to have that answer, maybe it could have been a question. Hey, maybe an impromptu energy check in the room. Hey, how are we all feeling in terms of energy? How are our meters looking like, right? Just ask a question when you start observing things. And that's where it comes to virtual facilitation, where I think when COVID started and everything went remote, I still remember a lot of people saying, you facilitate in exactly the same way. I was like, no, you can't, because in-person facilitation has its benefits. There are pros, there are cons. And then when you come to the online world, remote, and make it different, it's hybrid, there are different pros and cons. And your approach to facilitation has got to change. Like when I was doing a very hybrid approach, I also needed local facilitators that I could connect with, because if there are 5 people in a room, one person sitting at a barista, another person sitting in the car and driving, somebody being neurodiverse. I mean, when you have to manage all these different things together, your facilitation approach has got to be different. It's not just about the technology you use and the bells and whistles that come with it, but maybe somebody cannot see the screen you're showing. So have you made sure you can talk about it? Maybe it's a different language. Have you made sure, there are enough interpreters? Zoom, of course, offers that. Of course, it's a paid thing, but have you made space for that? And then have you kept enough time for that? Because it's not as simple as in person. These things, we just saw there's a lag for everything. Have we made sure we can, take care of all these things? So spot on to what you said, right? I mean, life or facilitation life in a remote world becomes very different.
Yeah.
Though it looks like you're like just reading out things and saying and doing same things and facilitating in the same way, but you can do it, but with some differences. So we can play the same games. And in fact, I don't have that here right now, but I'm co-authoring this book with my colleague, Make It Stick, the one I shared with you. We are actually saying, what can you do in person? How can you do it? And if you had to do it virtual, what would be the difference, right?
Yeah.
Because you can't just copy paste it. It's different. Of course, I'm going to use a whiteboard, which will be different than a physical wall, which will be different. So a lot of differences, small nuances, but we just have to be so super sensitive. Yeah. I'll pause at that and let you jump in and go on.
Yeah. And so just listening to all of that, if we boil it right back down to what does holding space mean, it means that we have to be completely present. And I think just listening to that, I'm thinking, wow, when we're in the virtual world, it's so much harder. At the moment, I've got two screens going. I can see you on one, the live stream here. I can see you here. I can see my mentee here. I'm looking at the time. I'm looking at the internet connection, keeping my fingers crossed.
I know, and I'm looking at the chat. Did anyone say anything?
Exactly.
Okay, should we respond? So but these could all be delegated too, right? Have people do it for us,
Yeah, exactly. And I think when you're doing it on your own, it's so much harder to hold the space because that being present is being challenged by all of the other things that are happening. And that obviously that happens too in the real world. When you're facilitating a group and a team, you've got stuff going on. I've had people walk into the room thinking they booked the room, and then of course that breaks the point. Usually where we're at a point of and then somebody comes into the room that aren't meant to be there, and that then breaks it. So you do have those in the real world. It's just I think there are more of them, and I've always got that underlying angst as well about the internet and will the technology fall over. So it's kind of what do we do? And I talked about simple techniques for creating silence and presence, and I don't do it as often as I should do, but one of the things that I used to do was take a moment, particularly when I was coaching one-on-one in the Zoom world, and I did a lot of that. It's about taking a few minutes just to settle ourselves in before we actually start the conversation. Just to get used to that silence again.
I think you just saying that, brought me in a different zone. My energy just automatically shifted. I don't know if people on the call can observe it, but it's just so peaceful right now. It's just switched inside me, very different. And I just want to be with it. It just feels good.
Okay.
No, but let's go on. I mean, it's okay. It just felt so good. And sorry, I was just distracted also by reading this comment. So I was multitasking, and all of a sudden I was like in a Zen space. So it felt really nice. So thank you for that, Ro. So I'm going to read another comment from Ranu. Life in the remote world is truly different. In-person settings naturally bring more energy, body language, and spontaneous connection. But remote work, when facilitated well, allows us to connect across borders, include more diverse voices, and create intentional spaces for deep reflection. Both have their own beauty. It's all about how we hold the space. I totally love this. I will already give my biased comment to it because I know there was one training or one facilitation that a customer wanted and wanted me to fly into Germany during or just after COVID had opened up, and things were starting to get back to a new normal, I want to say, but I'm not sure if that's the right thing to say for now. But yeah, what we agreed after they had one call with me, they're like, I think you can do wonders even if we do this virtually, can't you? I said, sure, let's do a 5-minute demo, right? And we just had a 5-minute conversation and I showed them how the facilitation would go. They were like, okay, the visa's going to take too long. We don't have that much time. This is impactful. Let's do it. And we were all so happy at the end of those. Of course, it was spaced out across 8 different days. Leaders don't have that much time. So 2 hours once a week. And after the 8th session, we did like a reflection. They were like, this is so good. We can, of course, still do an in-person, like a company meet, which we need to do not now after 6 months. But the impact of the energy that they all went back with to work on those days, the feedback that they took with them was very, very powerful for them. And yeah, they were really happy. So of course, I got great feedback from them. But it's again about how you could facilitate differently, right? Now, what was different? I think it's about how do you bring different cultures? And this is a very multicultural company, lots of senior leaders. So your facilitation style has got to match that too. And they need to also adapt to your style, right? And the energy that comes with it, like Ranu also just wrote about that. So the energy has to be, because in person, body language, energy is different. And why do people not switch on videos? If you don't see hands moving, if you don't see row, and if let's say, we were both doing the call like this, I mean, where's the energy in that?
Yeah, and also it's about being present. It's about telling your brain that you're present as well. So I always try my very best to put the camera on. Even if I'm not feeling great, I'll put the camera on, just because that makes me feel more present as well. So again,
also authentic.
Yes.
Pardon interrupting, but very authentic, right? Because you're there and you're saying, I don't feel great, but that's where I am. I'm just being me.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. So I do have a comment from Denise. I want to say that. She said, Denise says, do a 3-minute body scan before a session.
Nice.
Which is awesome.
Nice.
Super awesome.
Brilliant.
I've never done that, but I want to try that.
I'm loving these things. They're fantastic. So we've got 1 minute left, and there is a question on the Menti if people want to have a think about after the call, which is the head and heart of facilitation. So I'm just going to briefly, there we go, fantastic. So I'm just going to briefly talk about what I mean by this. So the head would be things like process. It would be things like how you might intervene in the silence. So say there's been a long silence and it's not, no one is interrupting the silence. You might choose to say, so what is this silence telling us? And that is an intervention and a process intervention. So there might be times when you do that, and that would be very much a head kind of activity. And then the heart would be all the things that we've talked about in the course of this conversation. So we are a bit biased, I guess. So we've held space today for a conversation. I've really, really enjoyed the conversation. I'm so glad that we rescheduled it, because with the technology, I don't think I was able to hold the space with the technology woes from last time. So again, it's about acknowledging what's going on for you. And if you can reschedule something, reschedule it. If you can't be there 100%, can you reschedule something? So I think we've also got on the Menti some details of, we're going to do some upcoming training. So Sarika, I don't know if you just want to very briefly talk about what our upcoming training is going to be about.
Perfect. Yeah. So I think just very briefly, we do have something coming up on 23rd July. And what we want to call it is Oh, where's my screen there? Okay. We're calling it facilitation change, facilitating change when you don't have all the answers. And it pretty much relates to what we've been talking about, right? So
Yeah.
how do you facilitate change when you don't have all the answers? And it's a 90-minute, simple, straightforward, hands-on micro course is what we want to call it. So if anybody is keen, we will drop the link in the comments after the call, after this LinkedIn Live. So if you are keen, pop in. We'd love to see you there too.
Fantastic. So thank you for holding the space with us. Thank you for joining in today. It's made a huge difference having the questions and comments come through as we've been going along. We are likely to do more of these. I don't know what the topics are going to be yet, but if you have particular topics you'd like to have a conversation about, please do drop them in the comments box. So from me, thank you very much. Sarika, any final words from you?
I think I have enjoyed the session, as always with you, Ro. I think our conversations are always, because they're not scripted, we just literally talk from the heart, whatever our experiences that brings in the head. So
Yeah.
the head and heart space for us is, I think, pretty good. And we've been growing this space between us across borders. Imagine that, right?
Yeah.
You join in from Perth, I join in from Pune, and we've still not met in person, by the way. So we still need to plan on that. We're going to
We
do
do.
that this.
Yeah.
That's another topic. I think it's just beautiful to hold this space with you each time. So I'm seeing if I have that cue in front of me, and yeah, my visual cue. So
Thank you. And thank you everyone who joined in today. And we hope to see you on more.
yes, I'd love to say thanks to everybody who joined too today. And thank you for those beautiful responses. I know Ranu's written some more things, but since we've run out of time, we're going to respond to you on chat. So thank you all. And we'll see you again next month.
Awesome. So I'll end the stream.
Thanks, Ro.
And then I might have ended it too soon. And then I'll stop